Welcome to the Agency Uplift podcast, the podcast all about the unique experience of growing an agency, the ups, the downs, the challenges, the learnings, the opportunities, the massive personal growth. I'm Sean Lang, agency owner of over 7 years and co-founder of Social Commerce Club. And today I'm joined by Deividas Tokaris, founder of Triplescale. They are a DTC, e-com, and info products agency. And thank you so much for being on the podcast. What can you tell me about your agency?
Hey guys, yeah, thanks for having me on board. Just high level, our agency, what we do is we just primarily focus on meta ads. And the reason why we focus on meta ads and instead of do some growth service is because I've been a media buyer myself for the last 6 years. I was perfecting my craft, so I decided just to move into one direction and just focus on one or two services that I really do well. So we focus on helping D2C e-com and info product brands scale with meta ads. And we also just started getting ourselves dirty with creative production and working with clients in that regard.
Very, very cool. So not everyone who's a good media buyer decides that they're going to start an agency. So what for you was the reason that you wanted to start an agency?
Oh man, that's I think that's a funny story, and I definitely contradicted myself and what I was saying 1 year ago because I've been posting on LinkedIn for the last year and a half, and in the beginning I took a stance of being an anti-agency person of like, oh, I'm a solo media buyer, I'm a freelancer, I'm gonna outperform your agency, I'm gonna do better than that, and it's funny that I ended up having an agency, and I think it was just a really natural transition that I had because I left my previous full-time company, which I worked with probably 2 years ago, and my goal was to become a business owner. I knew that I was gonna be a business owner since I was 14 years old. I knew that I was created and built for that. But I started freelancing. Initially, I thought I just wanna make an easy living, travel. But then at some point, I started onboarding a lot of clients as a result of posting on LinkedIn, and then the clients started piling up, and naturally I started hiring people. The first hire was a junior media buyer to just kind of support me on my daily activities, and then it turned out I upskilled a media buyer to become a senior, and then I hired another senior, and slowly then at some point I made a big investment into one coaching program when I decided that okay, that's it, I'm going all in. This is gonna be my business for hopefully for the next 5 years. So now our agency is quite fresh. I'd say I started an agency probably 8 months ago, and we have been growing really fast. At this point, we're 15 people strong.
15 people in 8 months. That is some fast growth. Okay, I've got questions. First off though, it's really interesting how you started off as a freelancer and then because of all the opportunity you had, it ended up making you look at the agency model and creating an agency. I think that's in some ways really common because if you're really passionate about doing something and you do it well and you find that more people want it than you actually have time for, the next step is, well, bring more people on. And now you're not just calling yourself two freelancers, you're a business. You are an agency at that point. So that's really interesting. I also really resonate with the whole anti-agency feel. The way that you started out. My previous agency, we used to position ourselves as kind of like the anti-agency, and that's really just because so many agencies out there just do a really lazy job, to be honest. And it's funny that most agencies don't actually want to be associated with other agencies because they want to say, hey, we do a better job. We don't do what those lazy agencies do. We actually care. We actually get you results. So just some interesting synchronicities there. But 15 people in 8 months. What has that been like? Where have you been finding the people? How have you been getting them up to speed? Because that's a challenge.
Yeah, it is. I think I definitely underestimated how difficult it is to hire because initially it was pretty easy, to be honest, because I have a vast network of media buyers, creative strategists, and the people I needed. So we're just one DM away, and it was pretty easy. But when you start growing and you need and there's you need a velocity, you need volumes of people, like you need to hire like 2 to 3 people in a week or 2 weeks. Then it becomes a challenge because then obviously your hiring process has to be a little bit shorter, and there's a higher chance you're going to be making more mistakes. That is why I'm using the simple logic, hire slow and fire fast, and I'm trying to use my gut feeling and instinct. I know it sounds really vague, but I've been reading a lot of business books, and up until I became a business owner, I was like, oh, embodied this mindset. And now when I actually have a business, it's really easy to practice it because I was reading it all over the place. But primarily, like, we find people on LinkedIn, and I feel that for any agency owner, I can definitely recommend building a personal brand. I assume everybody has heard that personal brand is the new big thing. It has been the new big thing for the last 5 years. Like, look at people like Alex Ramosi, Gary Vee, all those big people. And I feel that like building a personal brand has been incremental in growing the agency. From the hiring perspective, from the revenue perspective, and all sides combined. And the way we get people, it's really funny. I can tell you a funny story because one of the employees that now works at the agency, said one of the top performers, she paid her way to become part of our team because I have free resources on Gumroad, and people can donate me money. And one of the girls just randomly donated me 10 euros. And I always message all the people that donate me any money just as a sign of appreciation. And she was like, oh, I'm looking at an agency. I might be looking to switch things up. I'm like, oh, do you want to join the team? And she's like, yeah, let's do it. So it's kind of like a bit of an inside joke. But yeah, LinkedIn has been incremental for hiring.
That is awesome. So do you have kind of a rule of thumb or some kind of really, really basic measurement that you do before you decide to even chat with someone? Like how do you filter out the people that maybe aren't a fit for you?
Yeah, so the way I do it is before we jump on a call, usually I ask people to record a 3-minute selfie. I feel that unless you do high volumes of hiring, like you're talking to, hundreds of applicants, then it might not make sense. But I think that sending a quick minute video definitely gives you a feeling about the person. It's not even necessarily what the person is saying because he can write a script, he can read off the screen, but it's more about just seeing the way the person speaks and the way, like, the tone of voice, the tonality, because like the way he carries himself, because then you can kind of gauge what kind of person is it like more of a steady personality? Is he more of an executor? Is he more like a red personality? When I say red personality, we actually using a disc model that I learned from the coaching program that I'm in, and I use that primarily for hiring. So there are 4 colors in the disc. It's red, blue, yellow, and green, and every single color kind of reflects different character of the person, and every single role requires different characteristics for a person. Like, for example, if we take a media buyer, right? A media buyer usually should be in the blue and red zone a little bit. Should have blue personality, and blue personalities usually is basically steady, loyal, can execute the same tasks, really logical. So that's why, like, whenever you start hiring, you need to back engineer from the goal. What kind of person do you want? What kind of values you want the person to embody? And that's where the selfie video comes in. The person records the video, and then you kind of get a gauge on the person. And if you have a good gut feeling about him, then you jump on the call. But also application is important, like the expectations, like the previous experience. So, and then we jump on the call, and obviously then we have some questions prepared, and then we see if the person is a fit. For me personally, it's really important. I'm prioritizing culture, to be honest. Culture is really important for me because I feel that A-level people are only going to be working in an A-level environment, and if there's one imposter in the environment, one spoiled apple can ruin the whole tree. I'm a hard believer, so that is why we try to hire slower, but if needed, we fire fast.
Yep, that's so true, man. A lot of synchronicities between what I've deployed over the years and what you're doing. So kudos. You're doing a lot of the right things, which makes sense why in 8 months you've been able to hire 15 people. One thing that we implemented in our agency fairly early on, and it was a game changer, is I was doing all the hiring, and so I noticed that I was just spending so much time on screening interviews. People that after the screening interview was done, I'd say, well, that was a waste of time. I shouldn't have talked to that person. And so similar to your 3-minute selfie video, what I implemented, and we actually still do this to this day, is basically an asynchronous screening interview. So it takes the selfie video basically to the next level, where it's going to be anywhere from 5 to 8 short questions that they have to answer on camera. We use a tool called Video Ask, but there's lots of different ones out there. And essentially, what you're looking for in these answers is A, credibility, B, specificity, C, examples, and then D, are they personable and are they somebody that I would want to work with? And you can often tell these days also if someone is reading their answers off of the screen or not. So it's very easy to tell. I mean, that's an immediate credibility killer. So the idea is if you're not giving me good answers and you don't seem like you're a good personality fit or a good culture fit, then right away then we're going to send you thank you for applying, but we don't believe you're a fit for this role. All the best, right? You bringing up the disc profile part of your hiring process is very similar to what we do as well. We're into something called Clifton Strengths. Have you heard of Clifton Strengths before?
I think I did.
Yeah, it used to be called Gallup, but
Yeah, no, Gallup for
essentially
sure.
they've identified 35 different sort of core strengths that people can have, and then you get people to fill out an assessment, and then it identifies their top 5 that show up based on it's like 200 questions. So the likelihood of them getting you pretty accurate is pretty high. And these questions fall, or these core strengths fall under 4 different buckets. So one is strategic, one is execution, one is relationship building, and the other is influencing. So based on certain types of roles, like if you're in an account management role, you need relationship and influencing because you need to be able to actually manage that relationship. But if you're also maybe if you're also handling the strategy for that account, well, you actually need some strategy in there as well. If you're someone who is basically more of a doer, you're a media buyer, you're a creative, and you're trying to produce a certain amount of work, well, we need to see execution in those strengths. If you're a person that's really, really good at ideating and planning, but you have 0 execution strength, well, we're going to want you in some kind of analytical or strategic role, but we're not going to want to put you in a role where there are constant deadlines and we're constantly waiting for deliverables from you. So it differs from DISC, but at the same time, if we know that someone seems to be a cultural fit, they have credibility, they have a track record, they have all these things, and then also they exhibit the strengths that we have seen to be most likely to be successful in the role, then you're going to get an offer from us, basically. So very, very similar to what you're doing. Very, very interesting. Good job. You're doing great things. So I can see why it's working for you. I'm sure that you've probably learned a ton in the last 8 months. What are some big learnings that stand out to you so far? Maybe things that you didn't expect that you learned. I mean, for me, that's like every single day, but
Yeah, oh man, definitely. I think the agency game is so volatile, and it's basically it's a speed run. Sometimes you have those days and those weeks where it's going really well. You sign a couple of clients, and they're like, oh damn, like we're pacing to get that extra revenue, and then sometimes just like you wake up with a bunch of messages, like people, something happens with the team, somebody goes on a holiday, so you have to cover them. And I think that's especially the case like for small agencies that don't have like those huge management tiers, people taking over. So people need to fill up other people, so it can be pretty difficult. But I think the main learning for me was that is consistency. I mean, it's like really, it sounds really vague, but it's all about pretty much consistency. And I feel that a lot of agency owners, they want to get results really fast, and it's not about that. I have been posting on LinkedIn for the last 2 years, and I told myself, I'm gonna keep doing that, for 3 more years at least, because I know that it takes time to achieve results. Also, the same goes with the agency. It's like you have to put in the consistent effort, and like for me, I think the main level of growth and the main learning is that networking for agency owners is key. Partnerships and networking, because we actually have like a small group with other agency owners. We call that alliance, where we basically cross refer clients to each other. And I think that was a pivotal moment of growth. You just like sharing clients with other people, because one agency is doing the outreach, and if you partner with other agencies doing the same volumes of outreach, you quadruple or triple your chances of success and landing the clients. So I think for me, the main thing was just basically networking and keeping the relationships. So if the founder or one of the co-founders of the agency is not able to do that, they're gonna have a hard time. It's because it's definitely keeping the clients and also getting the clients. Because for like in our agency, like rarely somebody leaves. We try our hardest to keep them in the agency. We almost have no churn rate at this point, because obviously like still 8 months in the game, but we try to build that relationship. So that's one thing. And the other point is basically, resilience, for like, how resilient you have to be in the agency, because you will have, the downtimes, the uptimes. And as a founder, as agency founder, you have to be able to deal with huge amounts of stress, hiring and juggling multiple things at the same time. But I think that was like a critical learning for me, going from the freelancer mode. And I feel a lot of small agency owners that are doing like 5 to 10K are going to probably resonate, because in the beginning you're just a freelancer with a dream, with a wet dream. That's how I say it. And when you start growing, you need to start delegating. And most people suck at delegating. It's really difficult to let it go, to hire good people to delegate. Delegation, the importance of processes, has been a huge part to our success. And we're definitely not perfect. We're far from perfect. But yeah, I just generally look at the agency in terms of like 3 pillars. It's sales, delivery, and operations. So my goal was like, okay, how can I do well in each of these realms, and then delegate and outsource this? So that is why really early in the game, my fourth hire was head of operations, and she's amazing. She's doing the hiring for me. So unfortunately, she has to deal with those shitty conversations that you mentioned with some applicants. So I think that was a key moment for me. Just delegating as soon as possible and hiring the right people and investing upfront. It burns the profit margin. It hurts, but it definitely helps you grow.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Delegating or doing your first hire and then delegating to an operations manager, especially at how early you are, is really, really interesting. What hire number was she for you?
I think she was higher, number 4, number 5, like quite early in the game. So we had a couple of media buyers, and then I decided to go with the head of operations for the team.
Really, really interesting. I've heard two different schools of thought on doing that. I mean, clearly it's worked for you. It sounds like you were able to set her up for success very well, very early. But I'm also assuming that she's also at the top of her game as well. How did you go about making sure that she was going to bring the value that you hoped that she was going to bring?
Yeah, I think the main part was in the hiring process, to make sure like I get the person that I need. And I think one thing that I really stress on the interviews with people is that, listen, this is a startup environment, meaning that you will have to go above and beyond and do stuff that's not in your general scope. And I think like for the head of operations that we hired, it was a really good fit, because she used to work in a corporate environment. So also it was a bit of a risk, because I didn't know if she was going to adapt to like a small startup team. But actually she wanted to escape the corporate and to go into a smaller team, and she had experience building from 5 people to 80 people team. So that was ideal. This was a huge alignment. And she's a huge hustler. She really tries hard, works a lot. She's good with people. So I think it's just general, like like you have to make sure the hiring process is on point and you hire the right person. And I'll be honest, like in the final process, I had 2 people that I could choose from, and I'm really glad I went with her. It was such a difficult choice for me. But then I was like, okay, like these 2 people are literally almost have scored the same. Like they all like 10 out of 10 for me. And then I just went with my gut, with my initial thought. And then you always, there was a price difference. Like one person was more expensive than the other, and I decided to go with the more expensive one, because I thought, okay, I have to invest in the business. I cannot expect to bring a really good person for cheap. Like you just can't do that. And I really embody the mindset, and one of the big e-commerce brand founders also what told me is, whenever you hire people, you have to love them. So whenever you get the people on board, just make sure you take care of them, give them all they need, share the pay with them to make sure they stay and they're incentivized to grow together.
Yeah, that's all really, really cool. I had a really, really good question, and then you said so many smart things, and you totally distracted me away from my
Sorry.
question. So if it comes back, I'll bring it back up. But okay, so it's been 8 months. I'm just going to keep coming back to that because it's really impressive. It's been 8 months. But how have things changed since you started it? Because I'm assuming that everything has changed. But what are some of the biggest ways that they've changed?
Yeah, I think it's the fact, and I actually just started feeling that recently, is the loss of control. Because if you have like a 5 people team, or you have like 10 clients, 8 clients or whatever, you still feel like you have the pulse in the team. You know what's happening in the chats. You have an idea, and you have this like mental like stability within yourself that you know that you know what's happening. But once you reach a certain point, you have to hire people and just not get in their way in a sense. And it can be difficult for somebody that was a media buyer, because I know that I can do media buying myself really well. And whenever you hire people, nobody is going to care about your business and about your clients as much as you do. That's the reality. You have to make sure you hire A-level people, but you have to also be okay with the fact that people are going to fail. So I think that was a mindset shift for me, that okay, I'm not able to handle everything, so I have to let it go. I should distance myself from client work as much as possible and just focus on pivotal areas of the business, which is sales and bringing in the clients, and giving my team the best clients possible. And also like other areas like started emerging, like team culture. You have to start to think about team culture, and have to do you have to think about how you want to do it, what culture you want to build. So we actually 2-3 weeks ago, we had a first team meetup in Malaga, Spain. I saw my team live for the first time. So it was a really crazy experience, and we built those connections. And I think it's also important to have fun while you're building the agency, because it's mostly about that.
Absolutely. Okay, so you said one thing that's come up a few times now in other chats with agency owners, but the one part about losing control and also having to sort of step back and let other people do the work. One thing that I've noticed, some agency owners do poorly and some do very well, and I'd love to hear your perspective on this, is stepping back and sort of giving up the control, but doing it in a way that you still know what's going on. Because I think that there are some agency owners that take their hands off the wheel entirely and say they've got it, and then you come back and what you find when you come back is actually not at all what you were expecting, and you have to start to put out fires. So how do you maintain that balance of hands off but also still understanding and knowing what's going on?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and that's the tricky part. How you can. I think there are a couple of aspects in that. One is you have to keep the team accountable. Because like every single person gets complacent at some point, and every single person and a specialist needs some level of accountability, so that they know that they're delivering and basically calling to someone. And then the other aspect of that, besides having the accountability, is being coached. Because let's say for me in our agency, not all of the people that we hire are like senior level already. We hire some people that are mid-level with really good characters. They're really hustlers, but they need to be coachable as well. So accountability and upskilling the team are two important aspects in being able to distance yourself in a way that you can still keep track of it. So the way I decided to deal with that, so we have like a weekly Q&A call with the team, where we basically I'm encouraging the team to help each other, so that I don't have to be a front runner coaching the people. So it's like the team starts coaching each other within the ecosystem, and starts upskilling each other fast, and it becomes a really solid trade for the team. So in that regard, I don't have to be involved in the team's coaching. And then the accountability part, we have like a monthly meeting with the team, where I call it the milestone setting meeting. We don't have it on a weekly basis. We have it like one call per month, where we set the monthly goals to keep the people accountable. And then we have like a one-on-one time to basically go through their achievements, to celebrate the wins. And to be honest, like I'm still a little bit involved in the clients. Like I'm reviewing the ad accounts once in a while, giving feedback, but I try to come from a place where I'm just trying to coach people and just basically give value, instead of being controlling. I don't want to build a culture where you're micromanaging people that you hire. I think that's probably the worst thing you can do. So I say like I'm trying to balance it in a way where I set up some structures, accountability structures, like meetings, some processes, and I'm still a little bit more still involved in the chats and trying to coach people.
Very cool. Yeah, no, that all makes a ton of sense. Hey, I want to shift gears a little bit. I want to hear a little bit more about Triplescale. So you mentioned that you scale brands to $25 million a year with meta ads, but without expensive creative production. So why don't you kind of walk me through a little bit what that means?
Yeah, so basically what it means is, well, nowadays we all aware that creative is king, right? So creative is really important. But the thing is, a lot of founders have a misunderstanding and misconception that they have to invest a ton of money into expensive shoots, into really expensive UGC to really grow. And it does play a role at some point. But I've seen so many e-commerce brands grow to 25 million, which is a couple of things in place. Having a really good product market fit, which obviously we can't really help because clients already come with a product to us. But then the other side is having a solid paid media strategy and a solid creative. And what we notice is right now, like everybody went into UGC a couple of 5 years ago. UGC became the new big thing. Everybody started ordering UGC. Influencer prices skyrocketed as a result, and video format and UGC is becoming super competitive. What happened is that a lot of people started pivoting back into simple static creatives, and we noticed that static creatives can actually outperform video content if done well. So basically, we help with the creative strategy. We set up creative strategy for the client if he has an internal team, or we also started producing the creatives ourselves. And we play a lot with AI, and we do a lot of static creatives, and we try to leverage static creatives to reduce the cost for creative, which means that you can have a higher output while that costs less money, and you potentially can achieve even a higher level of scale. And that's where the slogan comes, as in we scale with less expensive creatives.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I'd love to hear a little bit more about the AI that you mentioned. This leads into a common question that I ask agency owners in general, which is, what are some tools that your agency couldn't live without, or AI use cases, because we're all now leveraging AI as much as we can, and I think we're already at the point where if AI isn't embedded in your agency, you're probably falling behind. So, when did you start using AI, and what are some ways that you're really leveraging it?
I think we really started diving deep into AI probably just 3 months ago. To be honest, when we started pushing more in creative production and creative strategy, so we tested a lot of tools. So I don't even know the whole list we tested, but we're always open to experimenting. But just a couple of we're using 11 labs for AI voiceovers, for creative. I know we just started using ideogram, which basically generates photorealistic pictures for UGC and testimonials. Then we use Atria. Atria is not necessarily like an AI tool, but basically it's a creative strategy analysis tool which has some AI features integrated. So I think Atria has been, like, for creative strategy, has been really incremental for us, because then we managed to just get rid of our manual reports that we used to fill in the sheet. We have like the ability to share the reports with our clients. We have like a lot of tools at our disposal. Basically, we have like AI generators to generate ideas, hooks, scripts, and obviously then we use language models, and we don't necessarily just use ChatGPT. We use Gemini and other language models, because every single language model has different strengths and weaknesses. So we just try to leverage those. But we're at the process where we're testing a lot of tools, and I think like the AI market right now is so hot. Like there's a new tool every single day, it feels like. But we also try not to get lost within this process of testing too much stuff at the same time.
Yeah, that's one thing that I tell pretty much every agency owner that I coach is we need to leverage AI, but do not get stuck trying to learn all of the AI tools, because it is a losing game. You will spend more time, or you will waste more time trying out AI tools and not actually getting the work done, when at the end of the day, we just need to find something that will actually positively impact our ability to get the work done, either quality, quantity, or both, and use that. And guess what? If that's a month or 2 or 3 months old and there's a newer tool on the market, who cares? At the end of the day, we need to produce results for our clients. So let's stop tinkering and let's actually get the work done. Yeah. So really,
It's
really
all
cool.
about the output at the end of the day. It's not about the
Exactly.
fancy tool. It's just like, okay, does it get it done? And that's about it. That's the most important part.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Very, very well said. Is there anything I didn't ask you that I should have?
That's a that's a really interesting question. I think in general, I guess just my finishing remark would be, in regards to building the agency, that it's definitely a difficult game. It takes a lot of grit, in my opinion, and I've seen a lot of agencies come and go. I've worked in multiple agencies before, and I see them falling like dying stars. But I feel that the best agencies that are really doing big numbers and are actually stable, those agencies stay in the market for at least 5 years. So I think that there are ups and downs. So it's all about the grit, and also just knowing just basically buying knowledge. I think for me that was the game changer when I
Yep.
decided to take shortcuts and buy knowledge. And as I mentioned, I made at this point I made a big investment into a coaching program, and I spent like 50% of my total cash that I had at
Wow.
this point.
Yeah.
But and at this point, I was like, okay, that's it. Like I invested into the coaching program. There's no way I'm failing. I cannot fail anymore. And I just kind of that pushed me to the next level. And I think right after investing into the coaching program, that's when we started, doubling the revenues and started growing really fast. So I'd say like
Yes.
that's the key thing.
There's I it cannot be overstated how much or how important it is to invest in your knowledge, in your development, in your learning, whether that's through a coaching program or a one-on-one coach or a mentor. These are things that can save you months, but in real terms, like years upon years of learnings. So that I think that is some wisdom right there. Davidus, thank you so much for joining. This has been a very, very interesting conversation. I really liked having you on. So maybe we'll have you on again in the future.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it was an awesome conversation. Thank you, guys.
Where can people find out more about you and Triplescale?
The best way is to go to LinkedIn and just follow me and just connect with me on LinkedIn. Deividas Tokaris. I post there every day, and I've been doing that for the last year and a half, and I'm planning to do that for the next 3 years at least. I have a newsletter as well where I share media buying advice. Also, I'm about to launch in a couple of weeks. I'm about to launch a creative media buyer course, which I think is going to be really interesting. There's no such course in the market, so yeah, feel free to check it out.
Very cool. Awesome. Okay. Thanks, man.
Amazing, appreciate it.